our life, the weekly show that is inspired by the one and only Seth Godin. So what is school for? This is a new show I just launched last year in October. So on this show, I invite entrepreneurs, parents, and students and business owners. We come here, we discuss, debate, and disrupt education. So it's really nice to restart the show again after a break. And I hope everyone had an amazing Christmas holiday if you celebrate, and a big Happy New Year to you. We are live on LinkedIn. Hello, LinkedIn. We're also live on Facebook, on Periscope, and on YouTube. So let me know in the comment section where you are joining us from, geographically speaking and social media wise. Today, I'm so excited and so honored to welcome the youngest guest ever on my live streaming show. I host on two shows combined, and the youngest guest ever. And today we're going to discuss a homeschooler's journey to happiness and success as an artist. And so my guest of honor is Jenny Wills, and who is actually the oldest daughter of my dear friend, social media marketer, and Dan Willis. And he was actually the very first guest of this show, What is School For? I think I launched the show in October last year, and he was the very first guest. Today, it is just such a nice coincidence to have his oldest daughter to be on the show and to share her journey as a homeschooler. So Jenny is a 15-year-old homeschooler and a self-made entrepreneur and a self-taught artist. And we were just having some free talk and small talk before we went live. I was already so inspired and so impressed by everything that she shared with me within 10 minutes. So I can't wait to have today's hour-long conversation with Jenny and to learn more about her homeschooling journey and how she has become the way she is today by herself. So amazing. So Jenny, welcome to the show. So honored to have you.
Thank you.
So do you want to add anything to my very brief introduction? Anything that I missed? Anything you want to share with our live audience? And we have a bunch of people with us live right now. I'm going to take out my phone to say hi to people. But anything you want to add to my very brief introduction?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm really excited to share my homeschool journey. I've been homeschooling since I was 7 years old, and I'm also really excited to share my passion about my art.
Oh, thank you. So you mentioned you have been homeschooled since you were 7. So share your journey with us, and maybe you can also share with us a typical day and what are some of the classes or clubs that you are a part of. So share kind of your homeschooling journey with us.
Yeah, so when I was 7, my family was in Oregon on a missions trip, and we were planning on being there for 6 months. And because I wasn't an American citizen, I couldn't go to school. So it was kind of the way we got kicked into starting homeschooling, my whole family. And all 8 of my siblings and I are homeschooled. So I learned to read in a Montessori school, and basically everything after that I learned by my mom and a bunch of various curriculums. So I've been homeschooling since I was 7 years old, and we've gone through a lot of different processes and a lot of different ways to learn. And it's been really exciting to get to pick all these different things. And my parents have always really encouraged us to not only learn what we need to learn, basic math, things like that, but to really pursue what interests us and what excites us. And it's really developed a passion for learning in all of this because we get to choose the things that we love to learn.
Wow, this is awesome. So I know that you are a very passionate artist, So share with us, how did you discover your passion for art? Did this just come to you? What was the journey like before you came to this discovery?
So it was definitely a kind of roundabout way I discovered I wanted to be an artist. Originally, I wanted to code. So I spent probably a good year learning about coding and various careers. And then my kind of focus shifted from coding to animation. And so I had my heart set on animating at Disney. And I guess slowly over the next year, I realized that it wasn't really animation I wanted to do. It was the art that fascinated me. And I'd always doodled a little bit, enjoyed art. But definitely there was a point where I just realized that it was what I wanted to do and it was what I wanted to focus on. So probably for the last 3 years, I've just focused on art, and I've really, really practiced a lot and managed to hone my talents a lot more.
Oh, this is so fascinating. I love how you are just like brave enough, to take actions. I want to give this a try to see if this is the right thing for me. And you mentioned you taught yourself like coding and art. So share that with us. How did you teach yourself? What do you mean by, you learned coding? Because you don't go to school. So how did you learn that? And share with us kind of the learning journey.
My parents have always really encouraged us, if you're curious about something, start searching it up, find books on it, Google it. We get told to Google it a lot. Google it, figure it out. If you're curious about it, learn about it. So I found a lot of websites that were teaching very basic coding to young children. And then slowly I progressed through these different challenges. They're all disguised as video games, but really you're learning how to code. So I would probably spend a good hour a day for almost a year learning all these different things through various programs I found and excelling in them. And then once I got interested in art, YouTube was my best friend. I YouTubed so many videos just following along, and it definitely taught me a lot.
Wow. And I know, like right now we have 25 people joining us live right now. Everyone is inspired by your journey. So I want to ask you, I shared with you, those of you who don't know me yet, and I did teach higher education for 10 plus years at different universities in the United States. So one thing I discovered in my own students was that they don't have the drive. They don't have the passion, even though they had the pressure from teachers to do the homework, to pass an exam, from their parents. So as a homeschooler, I want to ask you, so where did you gain that drive, that passion, even like holding yourself accountable to learn this, to do this, when you don't have that structured environment, when you don't have exams? So how do you hold yourself accountable? And I'm sure learning coding is not easy. So how do you overcome some challenges and don't give up and still hold yourself accountable on this journey?
I would say it has a lot to do with my parents. My dad is an entrepreneur, so from him I see that if you want something, you have to work for it, and you really have to push yourself to get it. He wakes up at 4 or 5 in the morning to start his workday, and he doesn't finish till dinner time. So from him, I see that if you want to have a business and you want to be doing these things, you really do have to push yourself, and you have to create discipline for yourself. My mom is a mom of 8 kids, and she homeschools them all. So I see a lot of hard work in her, and that's they both really taught me, if you have a goal and you want to set yourself that goal, then you really do have to push yourself for it and really want it.
Wow, that's amazing. So maybe can you share a story with us? Maybe now you are learning to become an artist, and how do you overcome? Like, do you have moments that you feel like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore? I feel like I want to give up. So when you reach that point, like, what do you do specifically? Or do you even have points like that?
Oh, I definitely have points like that. Some days it just doesn't work out. I'll sit at a sketchbook for an hour trying to start a new drawing and nothing's working out, and I feel very frustrated. And then, there's the overwhelming thought of, oh my goodness, as a self-employed artist, how am I going to make money? How am I going to be able to afford a house when I'm older? Things can pile up. And so often I think the best thing to do for the day is just I step away. I close the sketchbook, I go do something else, I'll clean, I'll go for a walk. I just need to get my mind away from it. I need to be away from it for a little bit, and then to be able to come back with a fresh perspective the next couple of hours and the next day is really, really helpful in situations like that.
Wow, this is so fascinating to hear, and just like how you can just like so disciplined and so. I also love how you mentioned, like how you are going to make money and how you're going to support yourself, given how young you are. So those people who just joined us, Jenny is only 15 years old. So at which age did you start talking about, supporting yourself, financial literacy, and talking about money?
I guess probably when I said I started really being focused on art 3 years ago, but I would say about 2 years ago was when it kind of hit me of like, it's not really easy to make money off of art. It's definitely more difficult. You don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. It definitely has to have a lot of really hard work put into it because you're selling a luxury, not a necessity. So you really, really do have to convince people that this is what they want and you need to buy this, you need it. So I've definitely watched a lot of videos, learned a lot from other artists who have posted videos or talked to me about how they make money because it is something that I really want to do.
Yeah, wow. It's fascinating because I feel like a financial literacy is something which is so important, but it's a big missing piece in our educational system. Oftentimes, even undergraduate students, people much older than you, 20 years old, they don't really talk about money until they graduate. They finally occur to them, wow, how am I going to, especially for those who are going to major in like arts, how am I going to support myself? It is a very competitive. So I love so what are some books that you read and to cultivate that like kind of financial literacy, like understanding money, budgeting, and generating money, things like that?
A good book that I read, which applies to me in some ways, was the 4-Hour Workweek, and the way it described a more smart way to think about business and to work in your life instead of just focusing on having a steady job that will give you a paycheck every 2 weeks and you'll have that financial stability. Lessons about doing what you love and not having like this point where you're like, oh, at 60 years old, I'm going to retire. That'll be it. I'll be free. But wanting to work for your whole life and wanting to have all these different things, that was really like a huge eye opener for me.
This is amazing. I mean, how many people in the live audience you actually read the book, The 4-Hour Week? I didn't discover that book until I was maybe in my 30s. So it is amazing that you were reading books like that at such even younger age than this. I just love this. So great. So share with us a typical day in your life. If there is, I'm sure every day is different, but if you can kind of think about it, summarize it, what is a typical day look like to you as a homeschooler, as an artist, as an entrepreneur?
All right. So for the morning, I wake up my whole family wakes up at 6 a.m. Everyone gets going. By the time all chores, Bible study, cleaning, different things like that are done, it's normally afternoon. So my school/art starts about 12:30. And then I have the way I'm graduating high school is taking the general education diploma test, which is where it's a high school equivalent diploma. So they have a lot of resources online for this. And then they also have an official study book. So I normally spend an hour or so on the studying part of my day. It's a less workload, which is why I chose this. My parents and I chose this because it's less workload for the mandatory school subjects that I can spend more time on my art.
Wow, this is so like when you get up early, like 6 a.m., to me, that's pretty early. When you get up at 6 a.m., do you use an alarm? Like, do you feel like, oh my God, I have to get up? Because I asked this question, my own children, they're much younger than you, 5 years old and 8 years old, every single morning was tough, screaming, Cheers. Oh my God. I also want to ask the live audience, we have a bunch of parents joining us live right now. So for your own children, share their morning routine with me in the comment section, because I want to hear about this. I want to see the difference. For my own children right now, I'm about to start my homeschooling journey. They still go to a school, but every morning they're like, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to get up. So for you, share with us, when you get up early in the morning, so how do you feel? Or you're like, or like inspired? Like for me right now, every single day I jump out of bed. I'm excited. I'm inspired. I want to do my work. So how about for you? And maybe you also speak other kids in your family.
I'm definitely a night owl. So I like to be up later and more productive at night. And I like to sleep longer. But I know that waking up earlier is good for me. You know, it's good to get a head start on your day before the rest of the world is going. And it helps that I have a lot of younger siblings, and they wake up at 6 o'clock or earlier. So when the whole house is already moving, people are already awake, people are already doing things, it's not easy to go back to sleep when you know that everybody else is doing their things already. Everyone else is being productive. It's a little harder to just go back to sleep.
That's amazing. Explain that. You mentioned everyone is being productive. Explain that to me. So you kind of mentioned your routine. What is everybody else doing, being productive?
Yeah, so I share a room with two of my other siblings. So as soon as we wake up, my 12-year-old sister is up. She's getting dressed as fast as she can so she can take our dogs outside for some energy time. And my other sister is hurrying to get up and get dressed because she has to get everybody breakfast. So wow. Already in the bottom part just in our bedroom, people are getting ready. People have things they need to be doing. And that kind of gets your brain going, and you're like, come on, I have stuff to be doing too. I need to get out of bed. And then upstairs, all my younger siblings are, stomping about and talking and chattering. So the day is already starting.
Incredible. So I don't know, like you guys have 8 children, so you have 7 siblings. So does each of you share a similar interest and have a kind of similar routine? The reason I ask that question is, one of my frustrations that I had with the traditional educational system, is we are kind of forcing all the students come to the school at the same hour, learn the same subject matter at the same hour, show the same amount of interest in every single subject. And it's like everything's so similar, and we offer the same to every single kid. So I want to ask you, in your family with 8 children, and how is, like, all of you guys are being homeschooled. So is everyone sharing similar interests or very different? So if you can share some of your siblings' kind of journey or career path with us, so that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So my 12-year-old sister, she wants to be a farmer. She wants to own a farm, a hobby farm, and she wants to run almost self-sufficient with no electricity, anything like that. So she spends a lot of time working at different farms, learning about different animals, and that's what she spends most of her day doing because she's focused on that path. So she would definitely do a lot different than I would. She's out of the house and outside most of the day, not in the house like I am. My second youngest sister, or my second oldest sister, the third oldest child, she wants to be a dancer. So she spends a lot of time choreographing her own dances and going to dance classes. Then the next sister, she's Whisper. She's 7 years old, and she shares an interest for art like me. So often I will teach her different art things and maybe just give her a couple tips during the day. So she spends a lot of time on art as well. And then my next sister, Charlie, she's very, very academic. So she does spend a lot more time on school than the rest of us because it interests her. So my parents really encourage us to follow what interests us, and they definitely gear our personal curriculums towards what we are aiming for.
Wow, I love how you mentioned, like schooling is actually interesting. A personal example that I frequently shared is being a teacher in a traditional school environment. Every time when I canceled a class, every single student was like, thank you so much, Dr. I, for canceling a class because we don't really want to come to school. But based on what you share with me, it's like, would it be safe for me to say that all of you guys generally love learning?
Yes. Different types of learning. I'm not eager to go sit down and learn math, but there are definitely aspects of learning that I love. Reading. I've been an avid reader since I was probably 7 years old. So I think the way that our parents have allowed us to pursue what interests us and encouraged us to figure out answers to our own questions has really cultivated a love for learning.
Wow, that's like music to an educator's ears. I really love hearing that because I can see the passion in you, which I don't normally see in my own undergraduate students. So I really love that. And I want to ask you some of the pros and cons in terms of homeschooling. Like nothing is perfect, right? So maybe you can share with us what are some of the challenges as a homeschooler. And I want to start this by asking you this question, because one question I heard a lot and even got asked a lot on this show, what is school for, is how about social skills, right? Those homeschoolers, they spend every single day at home. They're only talking to their parents, maybe neighbors. So how about social skills? So what do you think about your own social skills? But clearly what I can see from what I see is that you are very good at articulating yourself, and Vicky, everyone is just making comments and how good you are in terms of expressing and communicating your ideas. So share with us, what do you think about your social skills and how do you cultivate your social skills?
There's definitely a stereotype about homeschool students that is, homeschool students, they don't know how to talk to anybody. They are shy. They don't know how to speak properly. They don't know how to hold conversations. Ever since I was little, I've been able to hold a conversation with all ages. I remember being 7 years old at church and talking to the 80-year-old ladies and the 3-year-old kids. So it's definitely something that I've always been comfortable with. But my parents make sure, because we're homeschooled, there is not a lot of interaction in the school day with people our age. So a lot of us are in different clubs to keep us engaged with people our age. So my sister does 4-H, which is umbrella organization that organizes lots of different clubs. So she goes to a calf club and a knitting club, different clubs like these. And there's people her age there, and that's how she's made a lot of really, really close friends. And then I do Cadets Canada, which is a government-funded program designed for youth ages 12 to 18. So through there, I've made all of my best friends are at Cadets. And I've also taken effective speaking programs there, and also biathlon. So I get a lot of physical activity there and social activity.
Wow, that's great. Because one of my perception is I don't know how children, homeschoolers, cultivate friendship. And it seems like you are cultivating deep friendships through those like class and social activities. Is that right? How you come up with friends?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of options besides school for socialization. And the more you keep your eyes open for them, the more you see them.
Okay, sorry. I thought I lost you for a second. So here's a question from actually my husband, Dan. Thank you for joining us. And so he asked you, be interested to know how you structure your day and like learning independently and how involved your parents are. I think you kind of cover some of that. And did their level of involvement actually change over time? So if you can think back from when you were a baby, and how did your parents support you and how involved they are and how you were structuring your day back then compared to how involved your parents are today in terms of your career journey and how you structure. You kind of already answered that question. So maybe you can share parents' involvement from a younger age to where you are today.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier how whenever we had a question, my parents would say, read a book about it, Google it. That's kind of a way they've helped us to learn how to teach ourselves. So right now, my parents' involvement is a lot more on a supervision level than, sitting down with me and doing lessons with me. When I was 7 and 8, the whole day would be spent with my mom. She would watch me going through every lesson, and she built up a routine with me. So now I know how to build up a routine with myself, and I know how to structure my lessons for myself and learn for myself, because she spent those 2 years, every single moment of the day was with me teaching me.
Oh wow, that's powerful. I want to show this comment from Pam. Multi-age learning regarding what you mentioned earlier really helped develop social skills in regard to the comment we made earlier. And I love this question from Vicky. And thank you so much for joining us, who is an amazing entrepreneur and digital marketer herself. So she wants to ask you, for social and team skills, do you play sports and or do you have the option to do so?
Yes, so cadets is what cadets has a branch that allows marksmanship, which is shooting, and then biathlon, which is skiing and shooting. So my closest friends are in cadets, so it's kind of a bonus where I get to do these sports with my friends. So I'm on a team with a bunch of my close friends during biathlon, so I learned how to ski. So every Saturday we go to a ski hill and we ski and we shoot. And then during the spring, we do shooting every Saturday with the marksmanship team.
Wow, where did you discover all those like extracurricular activities? Did your parents discover them for you, or did you kind of discover them yourself?
Cadets comes highly recommended by anyone who's been in it. So we have a lot of connections who have been in cadets, and a lot of people have really recommended it to us. So as soon as I turned 12, I joined, and I wasn't sure about it at first, but it's definitely come to be something I loved. And then 4-H was the same thing for my sister. My mom had connections who did it, and we discovered what a great program it was.
Wow. So do you ever interact with non-homeschooler students? Did you notice any difference between yourself and your own siblings and those students who go through a traditional educational system?
There's definitely not as much of a pressure, I find. So in Canada right now, it's exam season for high school students. So there's a lot of stress right now with my public school friends. And it's always, whenever we're talking, they're like, oh my goodness, my exams are coming up. I'm going to fail all my exams. And for me, I just kind of feel so grateful of like, I'm so glad I don't have that stress and like that dread of learning.
Well, I love how exactly that's how they feel, they don't want to go to school. So do you feel like do you ever have FOMO, fear of missing out, every September back to the school season, or like I'm going back to school? Do you ever had that feeling?
Not anymore. When I was little, when I was 7 and 8, I didn't want to be homeschooled. I still wanted to be in school because I had been in school. So I was used to it, and I was like, but what about all my friends? Like, I don't want to just leave. But I definitely don't miss school. I am happy being homeschooled, and I feel like there's so many opportunities available through it that I wouldn't switch even if I had the option.
You are only like 15. You already at least discover your passion for this age. Many students, I just organized an immersion program last year in December. Many students, they don't know what they want to do. And my own undergraduate students, I have taught hundreds of undergraduate students. And rarely did I ever encounter a kid who came to me telling me, Dr. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Most of them were confused, lost, no spark in their eyes. They had no idea what they wanted to do. And even by the time they graduate from college, they still feel confused about what they want to do. And a solution is many of them go back to school to get another graduate degree, and eventually they have to face that reality. So really interesting to hear that. So how about those students, traditional students? Do they feel jealous of you in a way, or like envious of what you are doing? They ever tell you that?
I think there's sometimes when you talk to people, they maybe don't completely understand what homeschooling is. So I've had people say to me before, wow, I wish I could stay home all day in my pajamas and do nothing. And it's kind of like, well, no, I'm still doing school. My day is definitely full. I don't sit in my pajamas all day doing nothing. But it is a great opportunity to be able to explain what homeschooling is and the way I'm learning. Often it is a bit strange. It's a very different thing for people to wrap their heads around. So I wouldn't say there's a lot of jealousy about it, but there's definitely an interest, and it's definitely a great conversation starter.
Yeah, I love this. So here's another question from my dear friend Pam, who is an amazing educator. She was also a guest on the show. So do you do any volunteer activities, and kind of what is your career path? I also have this question myself. Where do you see yourself in 4 or 5 years? And are you thinking about going to college? And so share with us kind of two questions. Do you volunteer? The second one is your career path. Where are you going to go to college? So what is your plan?
Yeah, so my mom organizes a lot of different things in our community. We have a festival every year. She organizes a lot of things throughout the year in our own home. This past Christmas season, we had kids come in every week and do various Christmas crafts for homemade Christmas gifts for their families. So while I may not go out and do various volunteer things, I help my mom with all the different volunteering things she's doing at the time. So all of my siblings and I definitely learn a lot about volunteering and really being a valuable part of your community. And then for the question about college, I'm not sure whether I want to go to a college or just take a couple of courses. I want to learn about art. So that's my main focus. So whether that means a couple of courses or going to a college specifically for art, I'm not sure, but there definitely will be some sort of formal learning about art. And then the career path of choice would be commissions and galleries to sell my art.
Wow, I want to show people some of your art on Instagram. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. So everyone, please follow Jenny if you feel inspired by this interview. I know I'm like, my heart is like dancing inside my body right now. This is so fascinating. So look at some of the artwork you did. And you just taught yourself from watching online courses, video, is that right? Or did you take any class from some artists?
My aunt is also a very, very talented artist. And so for the last couple of years, I've been taking lessons from her. And the lessons I've learned with her have definitely helped me a lot with more technical things. And that's really helped me push my art to the next level.
Wow. Incredible. And now you mentioned earlier, so the last 3 years you really started. I think what you are doing is really like an entrepreneur to run this as a business. So share with us your business model. So how are you monetizing, or how are you planning to monetize what you do as a passion?
So my goal is eventually right now my goal is to build up an audience, and the best advice I heard for that was you can't sell something to nobody. So my goal right now is to build up interest in my art so that when I finally put it up for sale, people are going to be like, wow, we've been waiting for this for so long. So many people like your art. We want to buy it. Another great option for artists, especially someone who's in a lot of different fan bases like I am, is Comic-Cons. So a lot of artists will travel to maybe 5 or 6 different Comic-Cons throughout the year with their printed out art, stickers of their art, original pieces, and they make their money that way just by going to the Comic-Con for the weekend, and then they pull in $3,000, $4,000 just from that one time.
Wow, that's amazing. So you mentioned that you have a fan base. So how did you build your fans, like this community?
So I definitely have to give credit to my friends for that. My friends, a lot of my best friends say, wow, your art is so beautiful. I wish I could draw like that. So they tell people about it, and I always really appreciate that. My dad has shared my art on his own personal pages a couple of times, which I really appreciate. He's shown a lot of support for me and is constantly encouraging me. And then I interact with different artists on the platform. I find people that art is really inspiring to me, and I connect with them and I speak to them. So a lot of my followers are other artists. So I'm building up a community, not just of people who like my art, but other artists as well. And I think it's really great to have that perspective of lots of other creativity always around you.
I love that. By the way, everyone, and I just shared Jenny's Instagram handle in this little box here. So please make sure to subscribe and follow her. So I can tell you now, we have more than 30 people joining us live right now. So everyone is in love with what you are doing, everything you mentioned so far. So we are all so proud of you. Every single person here is much older than you. So we are all learning so much from you. So how do you use social media? You also mentioned before we went live, TikTok. So share with us how you are using social media to grow your community and building this fan base.
So I recently joined TikTok probably about 2 weeks ago, and I've been posting very regularly on there almost every day. Just building up, I'm still working on building up following and a community there. But it's definitely a really good place to be right now because like I said earlier, it's all younger people on there. Probably, I would say 16 or 17 and under is people who really, really use the platform and are on it regularly. So it's good to have a base that is young people. And so the people I follow are young artists. So it will be definitely a community of progress on there. So if you get a head start when a platform is young like that, you have a huge advantage when everybody's on it.
I love it. And many of your peers, this new generation, you guys pretty much grew up with technology. So first, my first question for you is when you were younger, so at which age were you being introduced to technology, maybe computer, smartphone? And so what's the policy, like the family policy in terms of smart devices?
So none of me or my siblings have a phone to post my Instagram and TikTok pictures. I use one of my parents' old phones that isn't connected to data or a phone plan or anything like that. It's just the smartphone. And our policy on technology and computers is a computer is a tool, not a toy. So it's definitely amazing to have technology, and there are a lot of huge advantages, especially with art, because technology opens up this whole new income source and this whole new platform for your art. But we've definitely always been taught, this is how you use a computer properly, and you aren't goofing around on there. You aren't doing random stuff. It's for a purpose, and you got to use it for that purpose, which is to learn and to, for me, spread my art.
Wow, I love that. Computer is a tool, not a toy. This is something I try so hard to teach my own students, and they don't get it. And I want to ask you, how about your peers? And based on your observation and the interactions with people of your age, young people, how do they use social media? Are they using social media the way you are using social media? Share with us.
A lot of my friends they wouldn't use social media in the same way I would, because the only really social media accounts I have are for my art. My friends who are artists do have their own art accounts, and they post there, and I follow them, and I encourage them with their own art. But I would definitely say that just my friends do use social media, although it's not with the same stereotype that you would expect of a teenager. It's not ridiculous. They're not on their phones all the time or anything like that. And maybe it's just my own group of friends, but they're never on their phones when we're talking to each other, things like that. So there's definitely, I guess we all have a respect for like the time and place for things like that.
Yeah, I see you are using social media as both a way to consume content, but also a way to create content, to share what you know, what you are passionate about. So among your own friends, are they more or less using social media to consume or to create or both? I'm kind of curious.
I would say more to consume. You know, if you have a lot of my friends, it's like if you have an Instagram account, it's not as much to post your pictures as to see different other things. If you have a YouTube account, it's not because you're watching YouTube videos. It's not because you're making YouTube videos. It's because you're watching them.
Wow, I love this. This is something I tried so hard to coach other educators and students to understand, and even as entrepreneurs, and we spend so much time on consuming content. I think for myself, reflecting on my own journey from being a fan of everybody else to become maybe a thought leader is to really start producing content, start to leverage social media, digital devices as a channel to share my passion, to share my knowledge. So I just love how you are using this both to consume and also to create, to share what you know and to educate others. So this is great. So far we discussed lots of benefits of homeschooling. And I want you to really be honest with us. So what do you think are some challenges of being a homeschooler?
I guess for children, a challenge is definitely the transition, If you've never been homeschooled before, like if you've been to public school and then transitioned to homeschooling, it's a very different environment. Eventually you get used to it and you realize like what an amazing opportunity is. But that initial transition can feel a little bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
And for parents, I guess I would say a big challenge is keeping your kids social. Just, you'd be surprised how many homeschoolers you can find in an area and different, co-ops, different things. People are willing to drive, the half hour to meet up with another homeschooler because it's important to have those connections and it's important for children to socialize.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because this is my ninth episode for this show. And on this show so far, a bunch of entrepreneurs have come to this show to talk about their own startup company. But it's really interesting that almost all the entrepreneurs, they homeschool their children. Mm-hmm. So like I'm no longer surprised if in the future we'll have more entrepreneurs on the show to talk about their education startups that they are more or less going to homeschool their children. So so I agree. If we do our own research, we will discover lots of homeschoolers and parents who homeschool their children. So definitely the social aspect. Anything else you want to add as a challenge of being a homeschooler?
I guess one of the challenges of a homeschooler can be the more direction you have as a homeschooler, the easier it is to create a path for yourself. The more you decide what you want to do, the easier it is to, hone your curriculum on that and to follow that path. But if you're someone who hasn't decided yet, you can kind of feel a little bit like a fish out of water. Like it'll feel like you have to learn everything because you don't have your mind focused on one thing. But I think as soon as you're focused on that thing that you want to go get, it's a lot easier to focus and make a path for that thing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I also want to ask you, for me, and I actually also speak Chinese, but I don't really make an effort to teach my own children Chinese. It's my fault, but also I struggle to draw a fine line between being a teacher and being a mom. So I want to ask you, what is your relationship with your own parents? Do you see them as parents or you see them as teachers? And was there any kind of interesting and ramifications as a result of having your parents being especially your mom and being your teacher at the same time?
I would definitely see my mom as my mom who also happens to teach me. First and foremost, she's my mom, and we have a great time playing around together and goofing around together. There definitely is a time and place for, this is when we're discussing school and this is when we're learning. But first and foremost, they're my parents.
So it hasn't been so the fact that your mom is also your teacher, that fact hasn't really hurt the relationship between you and your mom as a daughter and mom. Is that right? Can I say that?
I would say it strengthened it because I've gained a huge appreciation for my mom. Definitely looking back over the years and really realizing how difficult I was at times. I just am amazed that she's continued to homeschool us when we've definitely given her a hard time. So it's definitely strengthened our relationship, but it's helped me gain a lot more respect for her.
Wow, that's great. So as we're talking about this, because most of my audience, we have quite a few here right now, are entrepreneurs and also parents. So from your perspective as a homeschooler, and I think you are pretty successful, and from your perspective, and any advice that you can give to parents like me, I'm going to start this journey myself to homeschool my 8 years old. So what advice that you want to give us, to really support their own children to thrive and to become the best of who they are? So you talk about the social skill aspect. So anything else you want to add, like pieces of advice that you can give to parents like me who are thinking about homeschooling their children?
Yeah, definitely. So the beauty of homeschooling is that you have the opportunity to learn what brings you passion and what brings you joy. So as a homeschooling parent, take advantage of that. And if your kid loves math, don't make them spend as much time on, different things. Let them focus on math and let them be blown away by how much they progress so quickly because you're allowing them to, thrive and do what they love. Don't hold your children back. Let them, encourage them and push them. My dad, he pushes me. If I make some art and it's not what I'm capable of, if I'm capable of more, he'll tell me, I know you can do better than that. And that pushes, maybe I don't like it in the moment, but that pushes me to create more things that are greater.
Wow, I love that's such a great piece of advice. Really, you communicate that you actually believe in your children and help them get to a next level. Yeah, love that. Those are some really great pieces of advice. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think there's anything else. No.
How about you guys have quite a large family? How about among the children? Do you see do you support each other? What's the dynamic between you guys, like siblings?
My 12-year-old sister and I, we're best friends, so we definitely have more of a goofing around relationship. We like to hang out together, and we're really close. Then with my sister Whisper, she's an artist too, so our relationship is one where I teach her a lot, and I get to witness her grow so much in her art. She's so talented, and she's learned so much so quickly. So I get to watch her learn all these different things. And my sister Charlie, she's so smart. So a lot of us really encourage her and tell her, you can do more math. You're so smart. Look at you reading those books. So she blows us away, and we all have a really encouraging attitude towards each other. My other sisters tell my sister, it's so cool that you want to have a farm when you're older. We all watch my sister perform her own dances. So it's definitely an atmosphere of encouragement and pride for each other.
So that's such a great point, because research has shown for children to really learn, they need a safe and encouraging environment. And so whereas when you think about traditional school environment, it is safe in terms of nobody's going to be killed, but it is not so safe in terms of making mistakes and just being vulnerable, being who you are, and being super supportive of each other without worrying about losing a point. So I love how you mentioned that, this supportive family environment. So everything has been so amazing, and thank you so much for spending almost an hour with us, Jenny, and on this to share your incredible journey with us. As people much older than you, we feel so proud of you. I'm sure your dad is watching you right now. He's like, yeah, that's my daughter. So proud. So any final parting piece of advice as a homeschooler, that you are a self-made entrepreneur, a self-made artist? Any parting piece of advice or final point that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I guess two things. So I just really want to focus on the more people get to do things they're passionate about, the more love they have for it. So if you let people and if you pursue things that you want to learn about, you'll find you've cultivated a love for learning. And then secondly, currently for sale for donations to the Australian bushfire, I've created a piece of art for sale for that purpose, to bring donations to the firefighters and all the animals in that situation right now. So if anyone listening would like to go over to my Instagram page and message me, I can definitely share more about that.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And here again is Jenny's Instagram handle. Please make sure to give her some love. Tell her how amazing. When I was your age, I don't think I could do an interview like this. So thank you so much. And I love how you mentioned, when you love what you do, you just like, I think that love can also go beyond loving a particular subject. In your case, it's art, but you start to love life more. And I mentioned that because one problem in the young generation is mental health. So many people, they don't love what they do, don't love life. And then so it's just so much positive energy, give me so much hope. So thank you again for a great interview. And next Friday, everyone, and thank you for joining us live. Next Friday, the same time, and I have another amazing kind of homeschooling family. They are not your average homeschooling family. They homeschool in a school bus. I'm literally talking about a real school bus. So the entire family, they converted a school bus into their home. So they also have their own candle making business, and the parents, they also homeschool their own children. They are both entrepreneurs. So I'm excited to share their journey with you next Friday. If you're interested in the topic, definitely come join us at 9 a.m. Pacific time and noon Eastern Standard Time. And thank you again, Jenny, for an amazing interview. Everyone, make sure that you follow her and give her some love, some support. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you guys hopefully next Friday, the same time, same location. Have a great weekend.